Let's take a look at the minutes.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Frank, just so you know, we were listening in on your conversation. We do need you here tonight for the duration. It's going to be a really long one, but I see it's dark over there.
How do you push mute on that?
I'll come down.
Pat, I got some things I want to show you here anyway. I was hoping you were going to be here, but I can save it for
Okay, I'll
another
come
day.
down right now. I'll be there in a minute.
All right. Is he upstairs?
No, he's at his house, he'll just come down.
No, I know, I'm kidding. All right, a public hearing. We're having a public hearing on a conditional use permit application for Lucky Guys Distillery to operate a distillery in the B3 Central Business Zoning District at 101 2nd Street, Guy Whitehead. This is your opportunity to weigh in on this issue. If anybody has a comment, this is your time to make it. I want to emphasize that if you are zooming into this meeting and would like to make a comment, please unmute yourself. And we can't see you if you're raising your hand, or if you, through Zoom, raise a hand. We don't have the ability to see that here at the desk. So please just chime in if you have something to say. Is there anybody here who has a comment on this? Any comment? Any comment?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on a conditional use permit application and downtown design review for Lucky Guys Distillery to operate a distillery in the B3 Central Business Zoning District at 101 2nd Street, Guy Whitehead. Guy, by the way, is here tonight. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Okay. Good evening. Tonight you'll see in front of you a conditional use permit and downtown design review application for Lucky Guys Distillery, which will be located in the southernmost end cap of the River City Center building in downtown. The proposed business operations include up to 10 employees on site with business hours complying with city and state regulations at a minimum, although upon first opening, the tasting room will only will only be open a few days a week, but once well established, it wouldn't extend beyond the noon to 10 p.m. timeframe. In relation to the downtown design review itself, there is planned to be some external work proposed on the site that the applicant's requesting to replace one of the front entries into the building with a garage door for shipping and receiving purposes, meaning they would be doing all of this out of the front of the building. I just want to note that per municipal code's downtown overlay design standards, loading docks and doors are to be located to the side or rear of the building. With that being said, regarding the signage, proposed signage meets the code's dimensional requirements. However, staff is requesting that the Plan Commission consider whether the faux neon rabbit logo and the south facade wall mural signs fit within the historic architecture and character of downtown. And lastly, the applicant is also proposing a 675 square foot deck on the south facade of the building, which would increase the distillery's occupancy by 45 people, thereby requiring 9 additional parking spaces. This development of a deck was not initially accounted for when River City Center was developed or redeveloped in 2018. And so under current code requirements, the city has the option to decide whether to require the applicant pay in lieu of fees or not. However, since the site is unique in that it's the largest privately owned parking lot in downtown, it requires a kind of more thoughtful approach. A couple of options for how the Plan Commission may want to approach this are either to require in lieu of parking payment to meet these parking requirements, or second option would be to acknowledge that River City Center is the largest privately owned parking lot in downtown Hudson and is unregulated, with any downtown visitors capable of parking in the lot regardless of being a customer of any River City Center tenants themselves. So in this case, in lieu of parking payment would not be recommended for collection. So just to kind of wrap it up, staff is recommending approval of the CUP with the listed conditions noted in the staff report. However, Plan Commission may add any further conditions, particularly those that relate to the front-facing garage, signage, and the deck expansion parking requirements, along with any other conditions you all feel may be necessary. I do believe Guy Whitehead might be there in person tonight,
Yep.
so if you have any questions, feel free to direct them to him. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any as well.
I have-
Just one thing I'd like to say here before Fred starts asking. We now have two front sides of that building.
That's what I was gonna.
There's no longer a back side.
So this is Mary Claire. I have a couple questions when you're ready.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the diagram now, so it's not, can you repeat where that deck would go?
Yeah, I'd go along the south facade of the building, so basically facing Buckeye Street.
So it's gonna come out of that side?
Yeah. Yep.
So how does that play into the pink sign that is proposed for that side of the wall?
That's something where they'd have to kind of work around the deck proposal, shrink the sign potentially just to make it fit.
Is the deck, what level will the deck be coming out of? I mean, you understand my question?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Looks like it might be the second floor with some staircase, like a little staircase leading down to the parking lot off the side.
so the furthest, closest to the river, it's gonna be that high?
You know, Mary Claire, we do have Guy here.
Okay, okay, thanks.
So Guy, you want to come up, identify yourself, please, over here to the mic?
Hello, I'm Guy Whitehead. The deck, the original reason for the deck is we had to have a second exit. And so we knew we needed to put a second exit on, and the only one that made sense without affecting parking would be to come off that second level above the lower level parking with the stairs down to the upper level parking lot that's there. Since we had to do that anyway, we thought a small deck off to the side would make sense, you know, for obviously people to enjoy the outdoors and the view. And that was the reason we put it at that level. And the landlord, Brian Zeller, thought that if there was any place to put a deck in the entire building, that was the only one that would work. So it was the reason we planned it there. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
You bet.
My question, if I will, you know, we were talking about the garage door that was necessary with the type of facilities that we already have in Hudson that, you know, have incorporated garage doors into their, call it their windows.
Yeah,
So you plan on a glass?
absolutely. In fact, it would,
That was my question. Could you incorporate something that would more than be just a garage door?
Page 6, Exhibit C has that.
and I would say,
You can't see that.
But it's the glass up here in the
and the garage door actually would,
mirror the windows.
we would want it to be almost something that looked as attractive or more attractive than a normal door. It's the only logical place to bring material in because the back side, of course, is a second floor and most of the south side is the second floor. So assuming we can make it look attractive to everyone, that's the plan.
Well, that would solve that problem in my eye.
Wonderful.
Do you have an arrangement, I wish Brian was here, I don't see him online, but with the parking, and Mike, maybe you can answer it. I'm okay with waiving it, but I know that he's had issues, even this summer, with the parking lot overflowing, and he was towing vehicles out of there. How do we address that if we're gonna waive in lieu of parking and say it's open to the public?
That's an issue, right?
Right.
Because it is the largest privately owned parking lot, like Tiffany said. And I know that they've taken a lot of time. Brian's been out there personally to, you know, make sure people, you know, aren't parking there and going, you know, to places other than, you know, the tenants within River City Center. I don't know that we have the authority to enforce really anything there. I do know that they added 23 parking stalls on First Street, which is a positive, which would also help serve this and alleviate some of the issues. But I will also say when we were open, You know, earlier, you know, when the fitness center was open and Minnesota was closed, we had a lot of people coming over from Minnesota too. You know, so there's a lot of things right now that I think to answer that question directly would be difficult.
Well, I'd hate to have you answer it without Brian's input.
Yes, yep.
Well, along those lines, I know I've gone down there on the weekend where they've had kind of gatekeepers to the two entrances.
Yep.
Asking the reason for the visit. And they were only letting people in that were visiting the storefronts that were in that complex. And, I mean, worst case scenario, to enforce things, to continue doing that if they had to, should address that concern, at least it would, in my mind it would.
Yep.
You know, keep the people that are parking somewhere else out of there. You know, just for ease of parking and size and scope, obviously. So there'd have to be some form of watching to,
But to Mike's point, I mean, I don't think that's at the city level, you know, that's
No.
private property, so.
that's the owner's level.
The only time it is if the owner calls the police department
Sure.
for that, and then they'll act on it.
Which he's done,
Yeah.
yeah.
But so I think there needs to be an agreement between you and Mr. Whitehead. Whitehead, is it? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And have that in writing down the road in the future, if the city can still use it.
Well, I think that's reasonable and measurable, right? If we have an issue and it's identified, you know, I think at that point, with the CUP requirements being what they are, if there is an issue with a patio or with your deck, that, you know, we come back, review it in a year, like we do a lot of CUPs, and say, hey, if you're having an issue, we gotta, you know, we're gonna need to get some payment in lieu of parking here, so we can provide additional parking nearby.
I think that's fair.
Yep,
So is it 9 spots we're short? Is that what I?
correct, right now, yep.
I have no problem waiving that as long as there's an agreement between Mr. Zeller, Mr. Whitehead, and us as a city.
Well, let's just set the standard that we review it again in a year. You know, we get a full year in, see how we're looking. Now, we might have the same issue again next year with Highway 35 being bust up, Second Street. But, you know, we'll address it again at that point. And then, obviously, if there's an issue, we'll address it.
Well, I'm trying to understand, you're saying just because the deck is adding more problems with parking, but in here, parking still is able to be done by the city of Hudson without, are they able to park in there without any, going to that facilities? So let's say someone from Hop and Barrel parks over there. Is
Okay.
that still is it an issue or is it not an issue?
It's an issue if the owner says it's an issue.
Correct, so, but in one of your statements here and your staff recommendation, you say, I'd have to find it again.
You mean where they're referencing the count necessary?
Yeah, and that they were okay with having people park in there from the city, outside of patronizing the businesses in his lot.
I still think that's an issue that the private owner has to figure out, and I'd just rather review it in a year and decide. All we can control is what we can control. We don't control private property, right? So
Right.
my opinion would be, and my recommendation would be that we review this, and if a year's too long, say 6 months.
Here's my end question, is I want the ability for others to park in that lot if he's okay with
Okay.
it. So however we can arrange it in
Facilitate
an
that.
agreement, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, I can work with Brian on that.
So I just have a question, because I know Brian talked about the people parking in that lot that work at other businesses in the area when we were talking about the project on Buckeye Street. So I think what I've heard him say in the last meeting was there's already an issue of people who are not patronizing River City Center parking there.
That's my point, I mean, so.
Yeah,
Well, that was my point. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I welcome the distillery, but I want to be able to come up with a nice agreement that everybody's
Right, but
happy
I-
with
right.
parking.
So, an agreement, and again, we're getting beyond the distillery here, so it's probably, that's a
Well, no,
larger.
it's germane to the distillery
germane to the
because hopefully
discussion.
you have in your tasting room, it's packed every night, right?
Yeah,
That'd be great.
but I certainly can't speak for Brian.
Right.
Right.
We can work with Brian.
I agree with Mike. I think that's an issue between the city and the owner, not you. I mean, he doesn't own it.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't own it, but it's gonna end up being a part of the issue.
I understand that.
So it's a
So it goes
three-part,
back to the owner.
it's a three-part thing, and Brian is the pivotal person that needs to be involved with Mike in discussions on how we move forward with it.
Well, unfortunately, what's even bringing it up is the deck for this. You know, without the deck, the count is fine. I mean, still an issue, likely, but
And I think that the deck would add a lot. I'm assuming you would deck it up nice and as an entrance welcoming to Hudson. It would look nice and,
I agree.
I want to comment on the graphics of the signage, where I guess, I don't know if I'm changing subject here, but I would say it looks fine if you use like old world type lettering and numbering, you know, I mean, back like in the 1800s, that stuff, which they've kind of duplicated downtown. But your design, but with old world lettering and things like that, it would, I think that would look very nice.
I don't,
My comment.
wouldn't that have to go with the owners and the motif that he has going with that
Well,
building?
wasn't the signage an issue here?
I don't think so.
Well, is it a question, are you guys good with it? Really?
I mean, the sign package is in here, so.
Yes, I saw it.
I think the only issue I know of was that I requested neon, and they were saying normally that's reserved for the downtown district, and so.
If it's visible from the river, you can't have it.
Correct. No,
So
just,
The
that's,
initial package had something that was visible from the river. Guy removed that from the initial request, which was what, you know, we have to do. It's NR 118. It's not our rule, it's the state's.
yeah, the only lighted signage faces the, you know, the side with Holiday and Dairy Queen,
Second Street.
Second Street. There's no other lit signage. The sign on the south wall that's proposed and actually is, the agreement with Brian is at first, we're gonna, if there's a bottom floor tenant, that tenant and I will come to an agreement in how the signage would be. But it would be no bigger than the one that's in the package, and it would only be an applique. There's no lighting on the south at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve with all conditions laid out.
I'll second.
And with well, give it some time to get going with a 12-month review of the CUP.
All right. Got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Welcome.
Yes.
Another public hearing. Public hearing on a scheduled conditional use permit review for Hudson GNG to operate an indoor recreation facility at 2760 Enlow Street, Hudson GNG LLC. Mike, you want to explain why this is here?
I can.
Oh.
This is a scheduled periodic
Sorry,
review
Tiffany.
of the approved conditional use permit application submitted by Hudson GNG back in 2019 to operate an indoor rec and family entertainment facility. Since the start of the business operation, though, staff hasn't received any comments or concerns from neighboring property owners, and so we are recommending approval of the conditional use permit once again.
Everybody understand it?
We're in a public hearing.
Oh, that's right. We have a public hearing. All right, so this is a public hearing. This is an opportunity for anybody to comment on this. Once again, please just chime in because we can't see if you're raising your hand or not. And please unmute yourself. So, is there anybody that would like to make a comment? Anybody that would like to make a comment? Anybody that'd like to make a comment?
I move we close the public hearing.
Motion is second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Public hearing is closed. Discussion and possible action on a scheduled conditional use permit review for Hudson GNG to operate an indoor recreation facility at 2760 Enlow Street, Hudson GNG LLC.
So no issues have brought forward to the city?
Well, and to be honest with you, this use is also kind of challenging this past year.
Sure.
So, we haven't had any issues, you know, as an aside, you know, I've heard positive things, at least from around the community, you know, whether, for what that's worth, but, you know,
So do we want to approve for another year or for a longer period of time before they come back for another review?
Can I ask a question? Would this be considered an amusement park? I mean, like the Dells, I mean, it looks like it's almost on that order of, you know, one of those places where you go in and you can play around and have fun all day.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's any that much different. I mean, they have additional features compared to, you know, another facility that's in the area. But we have these things already.
Okay.
You know, think of it any differently, you know, yeah, they have a few more things, but like a playland and a fast food restaurant, things like that. You know, I think it's been a successful business. I think it's been a good thing for that space. I know the owners are happy. You know, I feel pretty good about it, and I don't know that we need to review it within another year. I think within 2 years would be fine if we want to look at it again.
Well,
I'll move that.
I would say stay with a year because of the change of scope. You know, it's not the same as originally approved. Correct? Or am I wrong?
No, it's the same.
Let's
It
see.
is the same?
Yeah, it's the same plan.
I rescind that.
Okay.
Is there a cost to the
With that.
owners? Each review or?
For the CUP renewals, Emily?
No, we typically don't charge for renewals.
Correct.
I was only asking that because I hate to burden them.
Right.
Yeah, 500, yeah.
I don't want to bring it to attention, but it may come up on their COVID protocols at council.
Sure.
So it may be addressed at a council level.
Well, I presume that they're following the protocols right now, so I'm sure we would have heard something.
Yeah,
if
we'd
they
have
had-
complaints. We
Right.
had none.
FYI.
Yeah, okay. All right, anybody else? We have a motion?
And I seconded it.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, we already did that.
Well, I changed it from no to yes.
Oh, that's right.
The second.
Okay,
So what, a 1 year?
1 year, as Pat had proposed.
Oop, time out. I proposed 2 years.
As
My
Pat
motion.
had proposed.
Yeah, I had proposed 2 years in the motion.
Yes.
all right, so we're
So
2
we're
years?
clear on that.
Everybody
2 years.
understand?
2 years, yes.
Everybody got that? All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on certified survey map, extraterritorial zone town of Troy at 430 Cedar View Road, Matthew and Carissa Woodruff.
So the applicants, Matthew and Carissa Woodruff, are residents of the town of Troy looking to subdivide a portion of their farmland at 430 Cedar View Road. The town of Troy and St. Croix County have actually already both approved this application. However, because this property falls within our extraterritorial zone, it is also required to get the city of Hudson's approval as well. So staff found no issues or concerns with this minor property subdivision, so we are recommending approval of the CSM.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on concept and final development plans for Hudson Crossing at 2351 Cooley Road, Banterra LLC.
All right, so you'll find some redevelopment plans for the former Family Fresh grocery store to be redeveloped into a multi-tenant building. The project is proposing sectioning out the building into 3 internally separated tenant spaces, as well as adding a donation drop-off center in the back. To accommodate the drop-off center in the rear, a retaining wall is being added to kind of help direct and separate passenger vehicle traffic from truck delivery traffic. The redevelopment of the site is also including a few additional changes such as building reface, additions to green space within the parking lot, some more landscape plantings, the inclusion of an access driveway onto Board Ave, the widening of the Cooley Road multi-use trail from 8 feet to 10 feet, and the addition of parking in front of the tenant's storefronts. These improvements have all been included to satisfy our existing city zoning code requirements. And so because of all those updated improvements and being brought up to code, staff is recommending approval of the concept final development plans with the listed conditions in the staff report.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on concept and final development plans for Hudson Crossing at 2351 Cooley Road, Banterra. Did we just did that? Well, I don't know what's wrong with me here tonight.
You got concept and final on that one?
All right.
Wait,
That's what it says on the agenda.
We approve concept, not final.
concept, no, you approved concept and final.
We did?
Yep.
Yep, that's what's on the agenda.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's on
B
the
is
agenda.
concept and final.
So they were combined, David.
Yep, it's in there, it's in there.
Yep. Yep. Discussion possible action on concept development plans for Quick Trip at 520 Annabelle Way, Quick Trip, Inc.
Now here we have concept development plans for Quick Trip to develop a 24-hour convenience store within the Bella Rose development. Project will consist of 10 fuel stations, a car wash, and the store itself, which will sell fresh produce, bakery and dairy goods, hot and cold beverages, fresh meat and groceries, and other such merchandise. As noted in staff report, convenience stores do require a conditional use permit for approval in the B2 zone, and so at this time, the applicant has formally submitted a CUP application that's currently under review by staff and will be brought forward to the Plan Commission with the final development plans for later review. In relation to the CUP application, a neighborhood meeting was held on January 13th, but no comments from the public were made at that time. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the concept plans with the listed conditions in the staff report.
I'll move that we approve concept development with the conditions.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Discussion?
Do they plan on, is this a bigger store than normal? Do we know, Mike?
Yeah, it's a little larger concept. Obviously, there's a number of access issues and other staff comments that we have, you know, that we'll work through before final. But yeah, it looks like a larger store, larger footprint. You know, we talk about building faces. This one has 3, I think, well, 4. I think all sides of the building need to be dressed up a little bit. We'll work with Quick Trip to get that done, but
I guess the only reason I asked, not to interrupt you, sorry, that there's nothing on that side, another grocery store. We've heard it many times over. So if this is what's gonna happen, that store's gonna be busier than heck.
oh yeah.
That will be a busy store.
Yeah. And I don't know, do they anticipate that? I'm assuming they do,
I think so, yeah.
doing their due diligence, yeah, but
Right?
that's all I kinda just,
Well, especially where Quick Trip has taken their selection.
yeah,
They're not a pop and candy bar store. you know,
correct, yeah.
So it will be busy.
Okay,
Got a motion in a second.
pardon me?
Sorry to interrupt, but if any questions for Quick Trip, we are present at the meeting.
Oh, well, do you plan on being busy there?
Well, that's definitely our hope. And
You're building it from
my name's Nate Bynum with Quick Trip. I'm a project manager. And this store is slightly bigger than our newer stores that we built in the area. The store itself is, I believe, about 9,200 square feet, and the total store with car wash will be about 11,000. So it's probably about double the size of the current store in Hudson, and about another 2,000 square foot bigger than the one that was built 2 years ago in North Hudson.
Oh,
Hey Nate, can you speak to,
It's
you know,
big.
to how, you know, our existing Quick Trip in terms of the success in the overall Quick Trip, you know, world?
Yes, the existing store in Hudson is very successful for the size and for the number of fueling locations. It's one of our better performing stores with those constraints. So yeah, yes, it performs very, very well for what it has.
Just to kind of get towards your question, you know, what do you anticipate and, yeah.
Yeah.
That would leave some of the burden on that store too.
All right, anybody else? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on recommendation to council regarding temporary zoning for those lands, I guess, included in the Hudson Physicians petition for direct annexation by unanimous approval parcel 020-1083-90-000, 020-1084-00-00, and 020-1404-14-000.
Bingo.
The Hudson Physicians is looking to annex 3 parcels of land into the city on the east side of Carmichael Road, across from the Hillcrest Drive intersection. As we do for all annexations into the city that lie within our extraterritorial zone, we go through the process of establishing a temporary zoning designation that closely matches what the previous municipality's zoning type was. In this case, the town of Hudson zoning type was residence. Therefore, staff is requesting the Plan Commission to approve a temporary zoning designation of AR agricultural residential for those properties listed in the petition for annexation. Future rezoning of the properties after annexation is anticipated to occur, upon which at that time a rezoning to general business would likely be considered.
Anybody?
All move to approve.
I will second.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action to amend the policy for placing memorials on public property. You have the draft memorial. Go ahead.
At their February 2nd meeting, the Park Board updated the city's memorial policy and made recommendations to address the types of memorials, identify locations for placement, and provided steps for removal. These updates were reviewed by the city attorney and recommended for approval by the Park Board, and have now been forwarded to the Plan Commission for consideration. This updated policy states that the Plan Commission will review requests for memorials outside of city parks prior to the Common Council's final decision. So the Park Board would still be handling any such requests whenever they come up for parks. But outside of parks, Plan Commission would be handling those. These applications for memorials would require information such as type, size, dimensions, proposed location, and they would also be required to provide a brief description of the significance of the memorial as it relates to the city of Hudson. Staff is recommending approval of the final draft of the policy and for it to be forwarded to the Common Council for consideration.
I'll make the motion to approve.
You got a motion, is there a second?
Pat, you don't have to hurry up and jam this through. You'll be surprised by what I have to say.
No, we can't talk about it until we have a motion, right?
That's not true.
Well, we can, and we do.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, why don't you pull the motion right now? and-
I'll pull that and
Okay.
explain where we're coming from Parks.
Yeah, just one
Yeah.
quick question I have is, I see it says that the proposed memorials will be reviewed by, does it say anywhere here that they have to be approved by? So it says reviewed by the Hudson Park Board, City of Hudson Plan Commission, City Attorney, and the Common Council as far as reviewed.
Council should approve.
No, it should be approval.
And the wording's wrong?
Yeah.
So if
Should
it's
be
in a park,
recommending
it's
approval.
only the
Yeah.
park board?
All right, so just so, that was the one thing that caught my attention. Go ahead, Pat.
Okay, background, we're constantly getting people, some people do it on their own, and getting requests for people wanting to put memorials or things for a past loved one in the park, because they always like to go to Lakefront Park, or they always like to sit at Prospect, or what have you. And it's an issue of what do we want, and where do we want it to be, and we don't want to, no offense, turn it into a cemetery. So the approach that the park board took was talking to other communities in the area of what does Stillwater do, what does Woodbury, River Falls and like. And we took the approach of, we have a launch list then for each park of what we'd like to see, either more benches up in Prospect, or a picnic pavilion up by the old hospital site, or what have you, that the individual can choose if they want to make a memorial. Sorry, all the benches in Lakefront are already sold out. We don't have any, as much as you'd like to do a bench, sorry. But here's the things that we'd like to go in these parks. What would you like to choose to go in? So it puts us more in control of what goes in.
I like that approach.
And I apologize, I'm old. We discussed it, and I don't know if it ended up for sure in the final version, but there was a horizon clause to it, that after 10 years,
I was looking for that too.
it sunsets,
I thought I
and
saw
they
that
can
in-
either renew, or it can go to someone else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3.3.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think, I've been the main objector to this all along, but to you guys, I'd like to thank you, because I think this is a good compromise and a good idea on what you guys came up with. And you're right, I don't want to see the city become a walking cemetery, and I just don't want, when does it stop? Because, you know, we only have so much land too. Now, I'm not saying that, but we have cemeteries to honor these folks. That being said, you guys did a great job, and I agree with this at this time. And I think, I'm not gonna hold it up, but as long as there is some control and oversight over it.
Yeah, and I remember your comments early on when we were talking about it.
Right,
Now,
and quite frankly, you agreed with
Yeah,
that.
that it not be a cemetery, and that we have some control over what it is that goes in.
And reducing the size of the memorial, but planting a tree or doing a smaller version of something is okay
Yeah.
to me.
And then I like the fact that we're funding needs for the parks.
Right, I like that a lot.
With this, and so I think it's a home run.
Yeah,
There's a big part of me that, and I know that you have your list, and that will be a continuing, you know, dynamic list. But to Randy's point, you know, a small memorial with a tree, I mean, what better gift to a city
Yeah.
than a tree?
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. So
We tried to approach it from a win-win for everybody, that it honors the person that wants to make the donation or the gift or put it forth as a memorial, but at the same time, it respects the city and where we want to have things.
Does that mean, Pat, then, say after 10 years, the names of these people can be wiped off, their gift, and or if the city changes and wants to do it something different, the person that funded this, let's say, a bench, they could change that bench and say that name's gone.
Yes,
Okay.
as I understand it, yes.
Just to clarify what
Yeah.
it meant.
Yep. The family could continue it if they wanted to, but if they're not interested.
If not, it could
Yeah.
disappear.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still okay with that.
So, and it talks about being reviewed
For the
every
sunset.
10 years.
Yep.
So is there gonna be, are we directing the Parks Department then to have a list every
Yes.
year of those that are going to be, that are
Here's our
coming
needs,
up on
here's our wants and needs list based on our plan.
the 10 years? So we'll have memorials that are coming up every year that have been there for 10 years.
Yes.
Are they being directed? I don't see that in here. Is Park Board or the Parks Department being directed to have a list of each of those that are coming up for review that particular year, so they can go out and reevaluate them?
Or would
I
that-
don't know the answer to that.
Would that start right now?
I would think that would,
Yes.
Well,
We mean, it's just like we do with CUPs, right? We have a master list.
Well,
of
we're not
all the
doing
ones
that right now.
Right.
I get it.
When does it start?
They'll have
And,
to
and we
start.
do have a deadline or an expiration in place right now, but I don't think anybody's actually doing that.
But this doesn't specifically say that at 10 years it will be taken away. It lists 3 reasons why it may be.
No, it just says reevaluated, so I mean, we should, if we're gonna say that after 10 years it's gonna be reevaluated, we need to make sure that somebody is reevaluating these
yeah,
every year, you know?
And it could be
based
that we-
upon-
want to change something in that location, and having a small picnic area there is no longer suitable for the overall plan, and we want to do something else.
So I have that as a condition of approval.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got,
The way I listen to this thing is that anything from this day forward fall under these guidelines, okay?
oh,
Anything that's existing and in place falls into what you're bringing up here.
right,
And then, going forward, you just, trust them as it needs to be done.
Yeah.
well, just so that everybody knows, when this goes to city council, that we do have a lot of memorials out there that have been up there for a long time, and they're supposed to be reviewed every 10 years. That was the policy that was in place. I think it was 10 years. Randy, is that right?
Yeah.
So, just so that they promulgate a list at the beginning of every year, so that they can go out and evaluate those that have been there for 10 years, or in this case, probably longer, and then going forward every 10 years, so. And then how do we handle the review and recommend?
I think it should,
Should go to
If it's
park
in the
board.
park, it'll go to the park board.
Go
If
to the
it's-
park board.
Park board, yeah, but I mean, what you have here, so it's review by each of these, certainly the city council would have the approval. And review recommendation coming from the park board, from the plan commission, instead of just review, right?
Right,
Yeah, we'd send, park board would send it to planning commission.
correct.
Planning commission would review.
Okay. Emily, you got all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
and one thing we have to be, it needs to follow the process so it doesn't get lost over the years, and I'm not picking on anybody, but so the general staff is not just saying, yep, go ahead. We need to know it, it needs to go through the process. So we avoid any conflicts.
Yeah,
We have to know about it.
Well, enforce the rules.
Right.
there you go. You're up.
I'm up.
Motion?
Motion?
Oh, okay. Now we have, I'll move that we approve,
And I will
With the,
second it.
with the conditions in the discussion that we just had.
And I will second
We got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I got nothing. Anybody?
Do we need updates on these potential bridge projects from these surprise DOT projects that have been as a planning commission?
I wouldn't say right now, the mayor and I and administration had a conversation with DOT, or with the League of Cities.
League of Cities, municipalities.
League of Municipalities, I think, we also sent a letter to the DOT, which they've responded to, and there's another meeting forthcoming after that. I would reserve that conversation until after we have that discussion.
Okay, I just want to make sure the focus
We're working on it.
is on widening these bridges,
Yep,
Yep.
especially 11th.
yep.
And we've got, the CIP did get approved with money to do the design engineering for the 11th Street Bridge replacement expansion.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
It only took 6 years.
Yeah. Move to adjourn then.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Tiffany, Emily.